So I've had a few conversations with people that led me to the conclusion that most people do not understand the basics of gravity. So I figured I would make a video of gravity, the basics of gravity, or Newton's description of gravity, and then Einstein's idea of gravity. And then on top of that, I'm going to describe what I think gravity actually is. So I guess this video is going to be about gravity. So recently I had a conversation with a fella that thought that Earth's gravity was not making it all the way up to the ISS, the International Space Station. That the reason the people in the International Space Station were floating was because gravity does not reach that high, 200 miles up in the sky or so. And so I told them, well, how do you think that gravity is keeping the moon in place? The moon but it's pretty far out there. My guess is in the millions of miles. A satellite that's only 200 miles up in the sky, how can that same gravity, Earth's gravity, be holding the moon in place, but not be affecting the people in the IIS or affecting the IIS? And he was baffled by this, but he was adamant that gravity did not reach the International Space Station. And why are those people floating if gravity did reach that high up? Well, the answer to that is that those people are not floating, they're actually falling. The same effect we would be able to experience here on Earth if you were to stick a cat or whatever kind of animal you dislike in a box and drop it off of the Empire State Building. That cat or animal, whichever you dislike, would be floating within that box. As it falls to the ground, as it reaches its demise, it would be floating. So those people are seemingly floating, but technically they're falling, just exactly like that cat within that box. The reason that they're falling towards Earth, but they never make it towards Earth, is because they're constantly missing Earth. They're, in essence, continuously falling towards Earth as well, continuously missing Earth. So a good way to look at it, or the way Newton would look at it, would be that the object is falling towards Earth, but because of its angular momentum, I guess sideways momentum, it would continue to fall towards Earth and never making it, unless it has a deteriorating orbit. Deteriorating means shrinking orbit. So a way to look at Newton's ideas is that the moon is actually technically falling towards Earth. The Earth is falling towards the sun. The sun is falling towards the center of the Milky Way. But because of all those objects have angular momentum, they're continuously not reaching their destination of falling towards the object that they're in continuous but perpetually falling towards. In fact, to be orbiting an object means that you're perpetually falling towards that object, but you're missing it, constantly missing it, until you're not. If you have a deteriorating orbit. So, anyways, so that's the level of Newton, right? That's how Newton would have seen it, with an addition of the formulas and everything, how to calculate. So Einstein came along and then he figured out. I was going to say that the way he would describe it, but I actually don't know how he would describe it because he described it in German. But according to scientists that have supposedly studied Einstein's ideas, the way they would describe it, so Einstein's idea of gravity would be that as the moon is traveling around the Earth, it's actually going in a straight line, but that straight line or space is curved, so it continuously orbits the Earth. I'm simplifying it a great deal because I want to move on. I don't want to make the video too long. I'm trying to get to what I think gravity actually is. So most scientists would say that gravity has the side effect of creating dilated time. I think they have it backwards. I think dilated time creates the effect that we call gravity. So what is dilated time? So let's imagine that I can create dilated time at will. What I mean is that from my hand in that direction, time would be dilated. It would be ever so slightly slower than time on this side of my hand. For every second that clicks on this side of my hand, 2 seconds would click on this side of my hand. That in essence is dilated time. Just simply a differential in time, in the rate of time. So what would happen if I stick my hand into the dilated time? My guess is that since time is running slower on this side of my hand, it would create a drag of sorts. The slower time would create a drag of sorts, and it would pull me in towards the dilated time, from the undilated time towards the dilated time, or from the faster running time towards the slower running time. And as a matter of fact, we know that throughout the elevations of Earth, going past the IIS and past the moon and further out, there is dilated time. It's more severe as you get closer towards Earth, but there is, at any two elevations from Earth, there is dilated time, even at a foot apart. The time at this elevation from Earth is running ever so slightly slower than at this elevation from Earth. We won't be able to measure the difference, but we know, as a matter of fact, that it's there. And it doesn't matter how close, there's still a differential in dilated time at any elevation throughout Earth, past the moon, and whatever. And that's what I think gravity is the dilated time from less dilated towards more dilated objects being pulled towards Earth. And it doesn't matter the size, any two objects will have dilated time, and any two objects will pull each other towards the other. So if the scientists are wrong that gravity creates dilated time, then what creates dilated time? My idea is that dilated time gets created because matter cannot occupy the same location as spacetime. In other words, matter displaces spacetime, which causes spacetime to condense around objects, around any object with mass. Any object with matter, spacetime will condense around it. And condensed spacetime creates dilated time, time running ever so slightly slower. And inertia works with exactly the same mechanism, with the addition of motion. Since we know, or since I think, objects displace spacetime and it causes it to condense around matter, creating dilated time around matter. When the object is in motion, it will create more dilated time in front of the motion than in back of the motion. In essence, creating a perpetual machine that will stay in motion forever, unless, of course, acted by an outside force like the laws of motions that we already know of. So I think the idea is pretty simple and straightforward, and it's not that big of a step to take from how scientists already describe gravity. I don't know why they haven't taken that step. The most likely reason is that I'm missing something, there's something that I'm not aware of that completely blows this out of the water. So the reason for making this video, my reason for making this video, is to get feedback, to get somebody out there to help me, like I've said in previous videos, to help me minimize my stupidity. It's quite simple. Just to reiterate and hopefully clarify, what gravity is simply time dilation. Time dilation gets created because matter displaces spacetime and condenses it around matter, which creates dilated time. It's not complicated. I don't know why other people haven't thought of this, but that's my idea. Hopefully, I'll get some feedback, and hopefully, people out there will share this video with people that might be able to correct me. I guess that's it.